Okay. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhed Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Gukarastvandhakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururithyabhidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Namah Shri Shankarananda. You can do that. We'll do it. Let's do it together. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Let's do one more time. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. So at the very beginning of the course, we had said that one of the issues, one of the problems in our life is that we're not sure what the goal is. You know, and so if you ask even the people who are spiritually minded, you know, if their people are not spiritually minded, then I'm not sure what they will be. It'd be kind of interesting to really do a survey of everybody and say, what do you think the goal is? I don't know what the answer we will get. Some people will say a better life in the heaven. You know, the Christians believe, and so did the Islamists, that you go to heaven and then you stay there for the rest of your eternity. So that's one answer that you can get. Perhaps others will say just union with God or something or the other. I have no idea what people will say. So we're not sure. And even Hindus, you know, we're not sure exactly what the goal of life is. And so I think one of the very important aspect of the study of Vedanta is to be very clear about the goal. And I think that this is what this course will hopefully shed some light on. Whether we reach there or not is a different matter. You know, just like I was saying, that example I give again and again, that if there is a definitive goal that you need to have, like for example, the favorite example that I gave was that if one of your loved ones is in deep trouble and it's in India or some faraway place, and you have to get there before something bad happens, if they lose their life or something like that, then that becomes a goal. And then the rest of your actions are relative to meeting that goal. But the goal is very clear. As opposed to, going on a vacation for 3 weeks. There the goal is to have some fun. Well, where? Where will you have the fun? It could be in any other places. All the places. It's not possible. Not possible. As I'm very fond of saying, that if you really do, if you are a good accountant, which you should be, what you should do is take a notebook at the beginning of even starting the planning for a vacation. Start a brand new notebook and do a debit and credit. And so the credit side would be, or debit, let's say, because I've had some accounting. So let's say debit side is something which is fun for you. And credit side is something which is problem. So you start giving a call to a travel agent, and the person is busy. Put it down. Travel agent busy, not answering. I'm wasting my time. Finally, the person comes up and he says, my boss is the one who's in charge of that. He will call you right back. So you say, that's wonderful. Doesn't call back. This is all credits. Then debit comes in and he says, yeah, we have a very good package and so on and so forth. Write it down. I'm very happy that they have. So anyway, whenever you have some kind of action in your life, there is no single goal. There are multiple goals, multiple goals, all of them involving some sukha and some dukkha. Whereas it's very interesting that in the case of a goal of reaching your loved one who maybe, as it happened to me, was dying, my mother, you have one goal, and I succeeded because she was alive for 1 hour when I was there. She died right in front of me. So there was some kind of satisfaction for me. She didn't recognize me. She had severe pneumonia and she was in coma. And but at least she was alive. And really 1 hour after reaching there, the nurse said, I think she's gone. But I had a sense of satisfaction that my goal was successful. And I don't even remember all the debits and credits, because the way I structured my journey was that it doesn't matter to me. So I remember that when the phone call came in from my sister, and I made the last minute arrangement, and then you go to the airline and you say, I need vegetarian food, and they'll say, I'm sorry, we don't have anything because you ordered it only today. And we order vegetarian food has to be, I think now they're doing a little better. But it was okay. So I had some salad or something like this, and because my goal was something totally different. It's all a perception. Whereas supposing you were going on a vacation and you booked, these always have these things happen. So you booked some flight and they had a aircraft change. And instead of getting a window seat or your aisle seat, you get a middle seat. Now your vacation is ruined. Then they say, I'm sorry, we don't have any vegetarian food, even though you had ordered it. The whole thing is completely different. So the goal is very important, because with respect to that, you can then make the rest of your action subservient to it. If the goal is not clear, then it's a different matter altogether. So right away, the goal is being articulated here. And so the lingam for the goal, so you remember now the word lingam. The lingam means some hints. Hints for the goal are being given here. And the hints that are being given here, the lingam for the goal is given here, that instead of being preoccupied with things that are variegated, put your mind on something which is not variegated. And the advantage of your doing this is enormous. You cannot believe what you will find. It's kind of like, I was just thinking of it today when I was just preparing for it. It's kind of like, supposing you have a diamond, a very expensive diamond, a Kohinoor or something like this. And supposing you give this to a child, a 2-year-old child. And how is that child going to appreciate the diamond? The diamond is possessed by the child. In fact, if the family owns it and the mother and the father can say, here, just hold it. And they have an eye on it. I hope he doesn't throw it away or he doesn't swallow it or something like this, So they keep an eye on it, but they let him play with it. What's he going to do? He would rather get a rubber ball. That's much better. He bounces. What is he going to do with a diamond? So, to appreciate a diamond, you have to learn. And the diamond is not only beautiful to look at, it's very valuable. Very valuable. A lot of people, they don't keep money and stuff like this. They just keep gold and diamonds and so on. So also the Atma, myself, Samvit. We don't know what their value is. We're like a child. It is talked about, and so this is the lingam. This is how it all starts. It's almost like if the child, a 2-year-old child you cannot talk to, but supposing the child is 9 or 10, then you can start to educate. He said, do you know what this is? And they'll say, no, I don't know what it is. It looks like a nice jewelry. They'll say, no. This is worth $1 million. You know what $1 million is? They'll say, $1 million? No, I'm not sure what that means. You know what our houses are? It's like the whole locality. You can buy, so you have to give some kind of an example, and then they'll say, oh, interesting. But a person who's appreciative of it, they'll say, my God, this is just incredible. And so similarly is the situation. We are just oblivious of the value of our Atma, oblivious of it. And this is how Ishvara has made this whole creation. It's just amazing. And so the goal of life is to discover the value of the self. And the value of the self is indescribable. Indescribable. It is hard to even visualize, let alone understand. The fact that death does not touch it, my goodness. And all we can think about is, really? Oh, I don't know how it doesn't touch it. You don't get it. Words to a person who's not really educated in this manner don't mean much. Oh, it doesn't touch, death doesn't touch, so how is that? The whole Shastra brings it out. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Bhagavad Gita. Na udeti na astameti esha. It will all come. And so this is like teaching a 9-year-old. we may not be 2-year-old as far as at least people who are looking at the spiritual value of this are maybe 9-year-old, not 2-year-old, in the sense that at least we can have a dialogue, start the whole dialogue. So this is the start of the appreciation of the self. And it does it in a very methodical manner. And so this is the goal that we should see. And the goal has to be provided by someone who is authoritative. Who's authoritative. And very definitive. And it's not just someone who just makes a crank call. You know, like today, for some reason, my wife's office phone gets these messages. We are the IRS. This just happened today. Every day. We are the IRS, and if you don't do this, you're going to be arrested. And I really sympathize with the real IRS people. When they have to do something, what are they going to do? Say, no, we are the real one, please. So here also, this is a voice of the authority. And everybody says, you come to me, you give me about $100,000, then I will give you freedom. And then in the end, that person also doesn't have freedom. You also don't have freedom. We don't know what's going to happen. But the voice of authority says, please start on that. This is the goal. So this is the context on which we are really starting the study of this. So here we are very methodical, one thing at a time. It just starts. So it says that in the verse number 4, number 3 starts with the number 3, which is really the start of it. And it says that please see this, that in your waking state, your knowledge, your awareness of things that you are objectifying all have variability. Shabdasparshadayah vedyah vaichitryat jagare prithak. Prithak means they're all different from each other. And so a knowledge of a table knowledge is different from food knowledge. They have their own qualities and so on. But please see that there is a common element in all of the objectified knowledge. Start to put this is the goal. So come towards yourself and appreciate your own self. And the self says that, in appreciating the self, it says, please see that even though your objectified knowledges are all different, the very substance of the objectified knowledge is the same, which is knowledge. And here we will see this also later on, and it's a very important thing to see, that really speaking, even the ignorance is also under knowledge. So this is an important thing to see. You cannot say that, okay, knowledge of things is one category and ignorance of things is another category. And at a certain level it is knowledge and ignorance. Because when you have a knowledge of some language, let's say, you have an enormous capability. And when you have an ignorance of some knowledge, ignorance of some language, then you have no capability. So they are different from each other, but at the level of the samvit, they are the same. How? Because, as you know very well, if that were not to be the case, you cannot even objectify ignorance. Because you say, do you know English? And you say, yes, I know English. And I used to give example of Swahili, but now we have some friends who know Swahili very well, so I can't give the example of Swahili. And so you'll have to come up with some Uriya or some Uriya language. I hope there is nobody from Orissa here. But say, do you know Uriya? This is, no, I don't know Uriya. You cannot say, I don't know Uriya, unless you have Samvit. So you say, how do you know you don't know Uriya? Hey, don't bug me. I know I don't know Uriya. I know. No, you don't know. Hey, you're just wasting my time. So really just look at it. It's a very important thing. That ignorance of things and knowledge of things are all variegated. Knowledge of things perhaps is in one category. Ignorance, this is the thing. We only know a few things in our life. The things that we don't know are 99%, more than that. We perhaps know 0.1% of things. But doesn't matter. What you know and what you don't know, they are all objectifiable. But the important thing is, this is the very beautiful thing to see, that the Samvit is necessary for you to lead your life. It is the same awareness. You say, I don't know, I know this, don't know that, etc. So this is all a starting point of pointing out to the very value, as we will see much later. Or this is not completely giving you the value, it's just a start. But the start is, please observe that there is a veneer over all your experiences, and this veneer doesn't change. Kind of like light, as we have seen before. And so the light may be showing tables and walls and so on. It's the same light. It's not as though the table light is different from the floor light. It appears to be that because of the nature of the object, but the light remains the same. And here, this is a super light. Why do we say it's a super light? Because a light itself can be turned off and on. Samvit does not ever disappear. Does not ever disappear. It is always there. See, so for example, if you look at if I just give you a sort of like a technical definition in the analysis of Vedanta. So this is what is called abhava. Abhava means one absence of something is called abhava. Bhava means the presence of something. Abhava means the absence of something. So another way to look at the objectified rather than the samvit is this. All objectified things, shabdas sparshadayaha vedya, anything which is vedya, one which is objectified, which is known. Vedya literally means what is known. Vid means to know. So vedya means one which is known, because all objectified things either are currently known, subject to be known in the future, were known at one time, but they are subject to become known. All objectified things follow the rule of what is called prak abhava. Abhava means absence, and prak abhava means at one time they were not there. As far as you are concerned, we're all looking at it from your perspective, one person's perspective. This is the way we should look at it. We should say, no, we shouldn't say, but yeah, but somebody else might have seen it. That's not very helpful. We have a problem with our own lives, and we need to look at the structure of what the nature of that problem is. And so for us, all the Vedyas, and they are subject to what is called prakabhava. Prakabhava means that they have a bhava now, but at one time it was not there. So the truth of all the Vedyas is prakabhava. And not only that, they have pradhyamsa abhava. Pradhyamsa abhava means that at one time they will also not be there. They will not be there. When they will not be there, we don't know. When will this table be destroyed? We have no idea. But one for sure, that everything which is Vedya has both prakabhava and pradhyamsa abhava. Samvit has no prakabhava and no pradhyamsa abhava. And we say, what do you mean? Why not? Why can't we have pradhyamsa abhava and prakabhava for samvit also? How can you say that it doesn't have any abhava? To which we say, so you remember the things that we said, Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava, all three of them. Shruti says that there is no prakabhava. Yukti says there is no prakabhava. And Anubhava says there is no prakabhava. You can, and so how then the person can say no? How can you say that? So we say that for proving prakabhava, you need to experience the disappearance of samvit. Then only then it will be yukti and anubhava. Logic will be that I saw it disappear. You know, just like you say something, I saw that person today, and you said, really? How is that? It was interesting. I was telling someone that I go to this gym for workout, Equinox. It's kind of like a high-end one, very expensive. I don't know why I'm spending that much money, but it's a good one. And so you have a lot of celebrities that come there from time to time. Tim Cook of Apple, he comes in early in the morning, and my wife also goes there, and so she sees him. I've never seen him. So one day I was working out, and there was this guy that looked very much like Anderson Cooper of CNN. I said, wow, he looks very much like it. I almost went to him and said, you know, you look like Anderson Cooper. Then I said, the guy was huffing and puffing, and so I said, I don't want to disturb him. Next day I found out he was giving a series of lectures at Foothill College. He was really there. So he was really working out. This is about 7, 8, 9 months ago. So there, somebody can say, how do you know? How do you know that? Hey, I saw him by my own eyes. He looked exactly like him. It's possible that's a double, but it turns out he was the same one. So for us to know that there is no samvit, someone wished to say, I saw samvit disappear. That means I saw consciousness disappear. First of all, you can never say that. You can never say that. Secondly, now we say, who is the one that saw the samvit disappear? Samvit saw that the Samvit disappeared. Cannot disappear. This is just an imagined thing. The consciousness is not something that disappears. It does not follow prakabhava. And you cannot witness the disappearance of Samvit. Just imagine that. This is one of the issues that we have, that, you know, you have light, and you say, prove that there is light. Well, all you have to do is to switch it off, and you say, see that thing that was illuminating everything? It has disappeared. And then you switch it on and say, this is light. You cannot do that with Samvit. This is Brahman. Samvit is Brahman. This is Ishvara. It never disappears. And that's you. You as a body may have had prakabhava, body-mind. As a jiva, yes. But we're not talking about it because that's Vedya. Our lingam, our hints are towards the self, to understand the value of the self, which is beyond death. It does not ever disappear. Just appreciate that. Never disappears. No matter, and so this is what is being pointed out by Swami Vidyaranya. He starts out by saying, you look at all experiences during your waking hours, and all the Vedyas are all different, but the Samvit remains the same. And there he didn't point it out, and I added that even the ignorance of things in your Jagrat Avastha, in your waking state, are also requiring Samvit. Then you might say, but that's only 1/3 of the day. What about the dream state? Same thing. Same thing. In dream also you have lots of things that are going on, and it requires a Samvit to objectify them. And that Samvit is not different from the waking Samvit, as we saw. Why is it not different? Because, again, you cannot prove it. You cannot, in order for it to be different, you will say, you know what, my waking state Samvit was distinctly different from my dream state Samvit. And in fact, you cannot even say that because it will be in two different levels. And we can't even visualize what the awareness will be. It's the same awareness. The things that you're objectifying are different. So that is why he says, number 4, Tatha swapne atra vedyam tu nat sthiram. They are not, they're moving around. You cannot tell. You make up your own rules. You just say one time you're in Los Angeles, and the next scene is you are in India. Then you cannot even say, how did I get there in 1 second? Yep, you can do it. Not in Jagara Avastha, but in Swapna Avastha, you have your own rules. And so they are not sthiram. Jagare sthiram. But tad bhedaha ataha tayoho samvit eka rupana bhidyate. He says it is the same. Put your attention to something which is amazing. Same Samvit. And then, to complete this, you go to the Sushupti Avastha, which is the deep sleep state. There also, the Vedya, one which is objectified, is different. And what is objectified there is complete ignorance. But the samvit remains the same. And so someone can question, how do you know that the samvit remains the same? So here, so as you know, in verse number 5, Swami Vidyaranya says that supta uttithasya saushupta tamobodha bhavet smriti. It is the smriti, it is the recollection. You cannot have recollection unless you have collection. But we have recollection. And what recollection do we have? How did you sleep? Oh, I slept well. What did you see there? Nothing. So the samvit saw nothing. You see, if the samvit was not there and the recollection was not possible, in fact, imagine the whole creation would be impossible. Impossible. In fact, if the samvit is not the same, imagine. If the samvit is not the same, nothing is going to be possible. Like you were a child and you say, then you grow up to be a different person. But no, what happens is that your body was much younger, so you are the same person. I was a child. And same thing when you get up in the morning, you're the same person. The samvit remains the same. And if it wasn't the case, if somebody asks, how did you sleep? He says, what is a stupid question? I have no idea. What are you talking about? See, imagine that. This is what will happen. This will happen. See the intelligence of Ishvara. It's different and it remains the same. So this is what is technically called vivarta upadana karanam. That the whole creation is in the form of change which does not change. It's like the gold that changes into ornaments, but it doesn't change. It appears as ornaments without changing itself. Similarly, the samvit remains the same, but the recollection proves that it was the same. Because otherwise, if you say that, supposing someone says, how do you know that the samvit is there in the deep sleep? Why? Because you recollect. Because if you don't recollect, you will not be able to, you'll be a different person. You wake up in the morning and your wife says, hi, and you'll say, who are you? Actually, that might be useful for you to say that from time to time. Just completely forget it. And just pretend that you are a new person. Unfortunately, you cannot do that. Once you get married, you are stuck. So it's the same samvit. Whether it is old person or a young person, and same person that has the transactions with everybody, it's the same samvit. So now the area for the samvit is getting expanded. Samvit is the same as the self, the same as the Brahman, same as Ishvara, same as the Paramatma, same as the Atma, same thing. And so the area for the samvit is expanded. You start with one definition, and then it's kind of like simple arithmetic. You first do, you just say 2 plus 2 is 4. And it's really interesting how the mind of the children slowly grows. I really enjoyed my grandchildren because I could see them. When I had my old children, I was too busy. I didn't really. But the grandchildren, I remember when they were 1.5 or something, I forget the exact age, and you tell them, okay, hey, how much is 1 plus 1? And they'll say, what? What are you talking about? And then you have to teach them. So you have this is one, and this is the other, and together they are called two. So they'll say, oh, okay, so there's a new name, two. And so then you say, then we are, another thing is called three. So they have to go through, this is what is called samskara, samskritam, buddhi. You have to give them some samskara. Then you tell them, okay, we taught you what was, 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, so how much is 1 plus 2? Now they'll say, I have no idea. It starts with simplicity, and slowly it grows. And in fact, Swami Maheshananji also points out that really speaking, our understanding of ourselves, Ishvara, the world, is so rudimentary that we cannot recognize the formula. We cannot recognize the formula. So, for example, in the case of the children, you say, now if you have a person who is already in 5th or 6th or 7th grade or something, they can write a formula. X squared plus Y squared, I don't know, maybe not that early, not the square, but whatever it is. Then they can solve equations. And at this point, Swami Maheshananji says, we are in simple arithmetic. We cannot solve the complex formula, but it is all truth. Once you understand it, and so complex formulas means that even if you meet somebody that you don't like, you go beyond that. You go at the very samvit, and as we will see, there is only one samvit. One samvit. This will all come, I'm just going ahead, but it's just proceeding in a very methodical way. So now we are done with the 3 states of experiences for a human being. Let's move ahead to verse number 6 today, and 7 also, I think. I'll be able to do that as well. So, what happened to did I leave it at home? No, I have it here. Sorry, what am I saying? So number 6. So you can just follow after me. Sabodho vishayad bhinnaha. Sabodho vishayad bhinnaha. Nabodhat swapna bodhavat. Nabodhat swapna bodhavat. Evam sthanatraye pyeka. Evam sthanatraye pyeka. Samvit tadvat dinantare. Samvit tadvat dinantare. Sabodhaha vishayad bhinnaha. Na bodhat bhinnaha. So we have to add na bodhat, add bhinna. Bhinna means different. So he says this awareness, bodha means samvit. This bodhaha, this knowledge, awareness, exactly the same thing. There's no difference between knowledge and awareness. So consciousness, awareness, it's all the same. That's called here bodhaha. So the bodhaha is different from vishaya to vishaya, from things and things and things. It's interesting, the word vishaya, in Sanskrit, you should know this. This is an interesting thing, and I think most of you do. The words in 99.9% of the cases mean something. This is what is called Vyutpatti Artha. Vyutpatti Artha. There is a very small percentage of words that are called Rudhi Artha. Rudhi Artha means that there is no meaning to it. It's just by convention. Whereas in the other languages, 99% of that are through convention. So when you say table, when you say a fruit, I don't know how these words came about, but they are all by convention. You just assign some words. From now on, let's call this object a fruit. That's not the case with Sanskritam. In Sanskrit, the word fruit is from the word phalam. And phalam means the one which exhibits the characteristics of a fruit. And the characteristics of the fruit are, it does not last. So, the karma phala is like a fruit, it decays after a while. You cannot keep karma going forever. It doesn't happen. The phalam doesn't, it decays. Anyway, so this is what's called Vyutpatti Artha. That means etymological meaning. So the word Vishaya, I just wanted to make a digression. So the Vishaya comes from a dhatu, it comes from a basic word, I think it's called shinj. I have to look it up for sure, I'm not sure of it, but it's called shinj. Shinj means to enclose, to limit, to limit, to enclose. You cannot. It makes you not free. It's called shinj. So Vishayas, we almost say the things that we see. Vishaya means things. The Vyutpatti Artha of Vishaya is that, there's a better word. I'm sorry, I was looking at things that limit. Bind. This is the true meaning of the word shinj, Vishaya. Vishayas are the ones that bind you. And so when you see things, you are bound by its presence. Either it creates some like or dislike, and even if it doesn't create a like or dislike, it encloses your identity. You are now captive of looking at something. You're not independent. The only time you're independent is when you are in deep sleep. There is no Vishaya, nothing to bind you, except for total ignorance. So total ignorance still binds you. But because you don't see anything, it is not visibly binding. Anyway, we're getting into details on that. Anyway, that's the word Vishaya. So going back to number 6. Sabodhaha Vishayat Bhinnaha. He says this knowledge is, and so here the word Bhinnaha is temporary. How do we say it is temporary? It is not as though that the book is separate from the table. It is not like that. But it is like the gold is not an ornament. Swami Mahesanji gives a beautiful example. He says, supposing there is a gold merchant. Gold merchant means that his entire business is on dealing with, how much gold to sell, how much to buy, etc., etc. He's a merchant of gold. He says, supposing his daughter gets married, okay, he does not just give a brisket of gold to the daughter. That daughter, you'll say, I have a great gift for you. You say, what is it? This is a brisket. Actually, you can actually give a gold coin or something like this. But here the meaning is that the real value of the gift would be if he makes an ornament and gives it to. All this time he's still thinking about, this is a beautiful piece of gold that I got, but it is the ornamentation. So there, when you say bhinnaha, separate, it is not like the book and the table, but it is like the ornament versus the gold. And so that means that despite the fact that it is not different from the gold, for transactional purposes it appears to be different. So that's the meaning of here. He says, I just want to make sure that you should think about that. Sabodha vishayat bhinna. He says the bodha may be different from the vishaya. Actually, as we will see better and more closer, that all vishayas are like ornaments, and the bodha is like gold. You cannot, for example, you cannot say this is a table. That's not an accurate way of saying, this is not an accurate definition of the object called table. The accurate definition of a table is, it is table knowledge. Table knowledge. It is really the buddhi. It is the table bodha. So just like you have ornament which is nothing but gold. But anyway, this we are getting ahead of ourselves. We will go back to a more detailed analysis of it. But I just wanted to make sure that these words are understood. Sabodha vishayat bhinnaha. Na bodhat bhinnaha. So he is revising. There is nothing new that is being pointed out. He is simply summarizing that the bodha of a Jagrat Avastha may be different from the Vishayas, but not different from the bodha of the Swapna Avastha. Samvit, as he said before. Swapna bodhavat, because it is exactly like the bodha in the Swapna. So we can even say, look at the English translation of that, that knowledge is different from its objects. He says, for example, ignorance, like the knowledge in the dream. And here the translator has added ignorance. Why? Because it is following the deep sleep where ignorance was talking about. So he gives a reference to there is rati, actually in the verse itself, the ignorance is not there. So it's just a postulation, but a correct postulation. So that knowledge is different from its objects, like ignorance, like the knowledge in the dream. And that knowledge, however, is not different from other knowledge. Bodhat swapnavatna, same one. Evam sthanatraye api ekaha samvit. So therefore he summarizes, this is a summary verse, and an interesting summary verse, because many times this happens in the Vedantic texts, and this happens in the Bhagavad Gita all the time. So Swami Krishna, for example, will give a summary of a chapter at the end of the chapter, and also puts in the seed of the next chapter at the end, as this verse will do in a minute. So, evam sthana traye api eka samvit. This is the summary of the last 3, 4, 5 verses. Then he says, Tadvat dinantare. So new seed is being given. Because up until now, we were visiting all the three states in one day, 24 hours. So there we prove that no matter what your experience is, this samvit remains the same. This has to be appreciated. But then what about another day? What about another day? Maybe it's very possible that the new day creates a new samvit. Dinantare. So he says the next day also the same. Samvit tadvat dinantare. And then it is this is so slowly the area under samvit is being expanded. So next one is number 7. Masa, no, sorry, let me just pronounce, chant it, and you can chant after me. Masabda, you can do after me. Masabda yuga kalpeshu, Masabda yuga kalpeshu, Gatagamyeshu e anekadha, Gatagamyeshu anekadha, Masabda yuga kalpeshu, Masabda yuga kalpeshu, Gatagamyeshvanekadha, Gatagamyeshvanekadha, Nodeti nastametyeka, Nodeti nastyameti eka, Nodeti nastametyeka, Nodeti nastametyeka, Samvit esha swayam prabha. So let's look at the word meanings of this. So masa means a month. It's called a month. Abda means a year, 365 days. Sometimes it's called abda. It has different meanings on it. Yuga. So yuga, I think is, and I keep forget about these things, I think it's 4.2 million years. It's called a yuga. So there are 4 yugas in a kalpa. 4 yugas. And a yuga each, now we are in Kali Yuga. So there are 4 yugas. This is the Kali Yuga, which is the worst of the 4. And then the cycle comes all over again. And so, in fact, we are not at the worst Kali Yuga yet. I think Swami Dayananji has made a statement. He said, there will be a point where if you ever chant Gita, you will be stoned to death. It will happen. It's going to come. Like it is already happening in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, you cannot talk about Brahman and all these kinds of things, unless in your own room. Outside, you cannot do that. So, but this will spread. So we are actually going to get worse before we get better. Anyway, this is called Kali Yuga. So Yuga means, like, I think it's 4.2 million. I may be off by it. Then comes this Kalpa. Kalpa is all the 4 yugas. This is the day of Brahmaji. And then the whole thing goes to sleep and a new Kalpa starts. So he says, doesn't matter. It's not as though next month we are going to get a new samvit. This is the thing we have to see. It's the same samvit. Next month, next year, next kalpa, next yuga, it's the same samvit. Same samvit. In fact, when Ishvara talks, it's the same samvit. When Rama and Krishna were there, it is their self was the same Samvit. I am talking. Did I ever tell you this from the Ramayana? Just I may have told you this. So we went to, I think I think one of the classes, I don't know. So we were invited to a friend's place. And so they had a drama. Did I tell you this? No. Oh, good, good. So our friend said that we have a 25-year-old son and he has lots of friends. And they are going to do a play on Ramayana. So please come. So we went to them, and then she told us at the door, please don't take it seriously because it's really a parody of Ramayana. So we said, yeah, it'll be fun, you know. It was so enjoyable. What happened was that in the play, Ravana was played by their own son. And he exactly acted as Trump. We were laughing, I tell you. His accent and his face and so on was exactly like Trump. And so it didn't make any sense. He was just talking nonsense. He was telling Sita, I'm just going to capture you. You are mine. Don't you like me? And she says, no, I don't like. And so he had this huge, he had 10 heads. They had a cardboard with 10 heads. So he says, okay, do you like this one? And she says, no, I don't like this one. And they're all the same picture. How about this one? She says, I told you I don't like you or any of your heads. He says, well, what about on the right-hand side? We were laughing. So I told this guy, I said, whenever you have a play, always play Trump on the villain side. This will be very successful. So anyway, even when Rama was there, Rama's Samvit will be the same as yours and my Samvit. His power may be different. He may have, his body and etc. But the self of the Rama or Krishna or Arjuna, it's the same Samvit. Not any different. That's what he's pointing out. Masa abda yuga kalpeshu gata gamyeshu anekadha. One which has gone and one that is going to come. It's not as though, this Samvit is getting very old and we need to define a new one. In fact, in our Dakshinamurti Stotram, when we say Dakshinamurti, so then we say that Chitram, what is it? Chitram Vatataror Mule Vriddha Shishya Gurur Yuva. So we say that the picture is that underneath a peepal tree, the person who is teaching is very young, and the people who are listening are very old. Vriddha Shishya Gurur Yuva. This is the picture. Why do we say that? Because what teaches is Samvit, and it does not age because it is not influenced, does not have a body. It is forever fresh. And the people who are listening, in other words, it's not just the teacher and the student, but really what is the substance behind the Vedya is Samvit, remains the same. Whereas the bodies and the mind are much older than you think. Much older. You are really, each one of us is like $1 million old man, old person, old woman. It's really good that we have to take up new bodies, because otherwise imagine $1 million-year-old person sitting there. what would he look like? Even 90 becomes kind of like hard to see in terms of the deterioration. A million-year-old. So it's the same samvit. So he says, why is it the same samvit? Na udeti na astameti eka. What does it mean? It does not have prakabhava, or it has no pradvamsa abhava. It cannot just have one or the other. It cannot. Just absolutely not possible for it. It's the same one. And in fact, the entire creation is supplemented. It is spread. It is held together by samvit. But I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it yet. And so my samvit, which becomes like a jivatma, becomes an enclosure. In fact, that's why the questions are coming up sometimes, which is appropriate. I'm okay with that. We'll say, what is this awareness? What is this awareness? Because the fact of the matter is that the awareness is you. You make a mistake where you look upon yourself as an ornament, but you are really the gold. And I cannot visualize it. My mind doesn't grapple with it. And one of the reasons is that the samvit is formless. And I don't want to be formless. I want to be formful. I want to be someone. Swami Dayananji had said this so beautifully. He said, in my anxiousness to be someone, I miss the fact that I am everyone. This is the thing. It's a bad bargain. A very bad bargain. It's just like you tell this, supposing this room space has some awareness, some Atma, and has a personality. So the Atma is the space, and the personality is that it has a shape and has a size, has certain beauty to it, and so on. And it's very possible that the person says, "Oh, I've been here for a long time. I want to really grow bigger." And then you tell the room space, no, this is what happens, when we tear down homes and then we build a brand new one. Brand new one. In fact, I see this phenomena all over the place. Even when we built a home, we had built a home like 30, 40 years ago. We had it built from ground up. And it has got all kinds of old problems because you have lots of rooms that are small. Nowadays, you need one big, great room. So anyway, so the room has a personality, and it doesn't like itself. In our home also, they say that when somebody comes in, I can't even have more than 10 or 12 people in a room. And so I wish I had a bigger room. And so the room personality may be limited. And then you tell someone, okay, now I'm going to remodel you and going to tear down the walls and make you into a bigger room. You'll be very happy. That's all I want. Then we ask him, don't you want to be total space? He says, no. I don't know what total space means. Don't confuse me. All I want to do is to be a bigger room, like this lecture hall. That is what I want to be. So this is the anxiousness of being someone bigger than what I am now. But in that anxiousness, I miss the fact that I am everything. And that appreciation of everything comes from an appreciation of the nature of Samvit. Nature of Samvit, which is completely independent of any limitations whatsoever. But at this point, I can't visualize it. All I want to do is, just like you're saying that a small room wants to be slightly bigger, all I want to do is about 20% happier. Total happiness, I don't understand what that is and so on. All I want is that I get up, I have a nice sleep every night, and I get up and have a cup of coffee, and I have enough money so that I don't have to pay I can pay off my mortgage. That's all I want. So then you said, don't you want to be the total Samvit? And he said, no, I don't want to be total Samvit. Just give me some more money. That's all I want. This is the situation. And so with this teaching slowly, really speaking, the words remain the same, but slowly our appreciation changes. Appreciation changes. Same words. So na udayati na astameti eka. It just looks like words. Na udayati na astameti eka. But to one who really understands, he says, what? You're kidding me. You mean there is no disappearance at all? Yep. Oh my God. Just amazing. So Swami Maheshananji writes about Ramakrishna. He was apparently started at the Ramakrishna mission. In some of the books he's written great details of very interesting things. So it appears, I forget his name, his Purva, anyway, it doesn't matter, Ramakrishna's Purva name. If somebody remembers it, let me know. So he was in Bengal, and he was a great bhakta of Kali. Great bhakta. So much so that Kali would give him her darshan from time to time. And he could visualize her and he could see her. And the powers of Kali were given to him sometimes. And he was very devoted to her. And it was like a real presence in his life. These things occur, actually, there's absolutely. I have a friend who I went to school with in Piercy, Swamini Pramananda. And so she has an ashram she has a couple of ashrams, one in Coimbatore and one in Uttarkashi. So she's quite well known in the villages there and teaches there to the people and so on. And then also her friend Swami Siddhabodhananda, who's also my colleague, also stays with her there. So both they both have an ashram there. Siddhabodhananda was telling me, he said, do you know that each village there has a devata that comes alive at least once a year? So I says, what do you mean by, and he is not like he's a very learned person. And, and so he was just telling me last year. In fact, he's told me, he says, please bring all your students. I said, I don't know, I don't have the time, but maybe we should do that. He's after me even now. He says, bring everybody, I'll show it to you. So apparently in this village, which is very close to the ashram, so there is in fact a devata that comes in. And so they have a what is the English for palaki? you know, palanquin. So there's a palanquin, and so there's a sort of like a system where they invite him. And all of a sudden the palanquin becomes heavy and starts dancing. No one is moving it. No one is moving. And the whole village becomes joyful. And I don't know how long this lasts. And there are sounds and there are bells that all come about. And then he says goodbye. He gives his blessings to the village and, disappears. Well, these things happen. Anyway, so Ramakrishna was very fond of Kali. And he was, he had the experience of Kali. He could see Kali. He could actually see the effect of the power of Kali. So one time, there was a Swami from Punjab. I didn't know this. I'm very happy. I'm also from the same state. There's something good about that. That's good. There's a Swami from Punjab. His name is Swami Totapuri. And apparently now it's in, he was from a village which is now in Pakistan because it was in Punjab, Pakistan. So he was a Jivan Mukta. And he was just wandering around and so on and so forth. And somebody told him that about this, this person who had the vision of the Kali and had the power of the Kali and so on. He says, oh, that's very interesting. Let me go visit him. So Swami Maheshwaranji writes that when Totapuri came to Ramakrishna, he was not yet a Swami. He was not Ramakrishna, He was just a brahmachari or something, married person, of course. And he could see that this is a very intelligent person. But he had an extreme linkage to Kali. And he wanted to break that. He says, you cannot be free until you get rid of your allegiance to Kali. Because a power of some Devi or Devata is nothing. So you have some enjoyment of it, and you can walk on water, and you can lift yourself, and so on. So what? It doesn't mean anything. It has nothing to do with your your happiness and your freedom from death and so on. And so Ramakrishna would not listen to him. He said, listen, you cannot get me away from Kali because I have gotten her after a lifelong of tapasya, a previous life also, and I'm not going to get rid of her. And so he was very frustrated that this guy has a potential and he's being hung up on something. This is the whole imagery of saying that if you want to be, the room space wants to be a bigger room space. Doesn't want to be complete space. And finally, Totapuri had to literally force him to do meditation under his under his guidance, and to prove to him that the Samvit requires no allegiance to anyone. And finally, Ramakrishna came around. It took him a while. And so finally, he just begged to the Kali, and thank you very much. From now on, I am beyond you. I am beyond any allegiance and so on. And he became very, from that point on, his teachings became so on and so forth. And Totapuri was very happy. And he moved on to the next village and so on and so forth. This is the story. So there what I was saying was that even a great soul like Ramakrishna had attachments. And until all attachments are removed, you cannot become totally free. All vairagya. There was also a kind of a vairagya from Kali. That was an enjoyable story I read, and he has referred to it several times in lots of books on that. And one of them, he went into some detail on exactly how it happened. So that was revealing to me. Anyway, so I will stop today and maybe leave some time for questions, and we will continue on the same topic next week. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Yeah, Shilpa.
So we are talking about all these things, and I was listening or reading to one of the points of teachers ourselves. Is it possible for us not to completely grasp the idea of this universe from where we call Big Bang or whatever you want to call it, from nothing to something, because we're in it, and is it possible that something outside of it can observe how it came through, and we cannot because we're part of it?
So it's that's not tenable because the nature of Samvit is there is nothing outside of it. So when you say we are inside of it, that is only with respect to the association with the body-mind. See? So it's kind of like saying that I know that we are evaluating the age of buildings and whether it's good or bad or how it came about, there was a Big Bang, so on and so forth. But is there some space outside this space? So there is a space outside the room space, but there is no space outside the space. So there is nothing outside Samvit. It is in fact the very content of everything. So yeah, you can postulate in terms of the definition of how it came about. Those are, and we will study that in different texts and so on. But no, it's not tenable to think that way because there is nothing outside the very existence of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So that's the answer. Yes, sir.
I have difficulty with this. So from the very beginning when I heard about deep sleep,
yeah.
When I wake up and I'm asked, how did you sleep?
Yeah.
And I say, I slept well. It's not a memory. It's an inference drawn from how I feel upon waking up.
Yeah, you may think that, but it is actually memory. It's actually memory. You have come to a conclusion that it's an inference, but you have personal experience. Because you cannot say definitively that you had a good sleep unless you were involved in it. Because otherwise you will say, I don't know, I guess I slept well, I must have, because I didn't see anything, maybe I was okay. Those kinds of thoughts will come if it was an inference and not an experience. But that doesn't happen. You instantly say, I slept well. I slept well. So this is one thing. And the other thing is, Shruti says it. So we have to, so there we say that we have, even there are some gaps It could be. We're not forcing you to say, hey, this is stupidity on your part. Don't say this is this, and you have to do. Not saying that. But I think that if one has a doubt, then you have to look at what the authority says, and then